Concealed behind national averages in Latin America is the alarming truth that the region is the most economically unequal on Earth. Over 400,000 children under 5 die each year, mostly from preventable causes. Well over half the children in Latin America and the Caribbean live in poverty, and those of African and indigenous descent are the poorest of the poor. In the shadow of economic growth, there is a systematic exclusion affecting a vulnerable population crucial to the region's future. In order to achieve changes that will improve conditions for children over the long term, UNICEF is working hard with governments and civil society.
By social mobilization, we mean a process whereby more and more people, civil society organizations, community are involved in the initiatives. Once they start saying our initiative, our project, then they're part of it, they have been socially mobilized, they owned the project.
As part of efforts to achieve the Millennium Development Goals set by the international community, UNICEF works in close collaboration with other United Nations agencies, focusing its work in specific areas. Seeing survival and health as the bedrock on which all other advances are built, UNICEF is working to improve children's health. Saving children's lives through immunization is of primary importance. For example, in Peru, helping to modernize the cold chain to make sure that vaccines effectively reach remote locations. Quality education is essential for child development and to achieving children's rights and overall economic development. In several countries, UNICEF is promoting quality, intercultural bilingual education for indigenous children. The Caribbean and parts of Central America have the second highest incidence of HIV/AIDS in the world. UNICEF works throughout the region with community groups and governments to scale up national HIV/AIDS programs so that all young people know how to protect themselves. The focus is on reducing risks for young people and preventing mother-to-child transmission of HIV. From the armed conflict in Colombia to gang violence in Brazil and widespread domestic abuse, there is a crisis of violence impacting the region's young. All too often, the response is repression rather than prevention. Governments have to understand they have to make room for social policies that will increase opportunities, starting with education. The Aprendiz project in Sao Paulo, Brazil, works to reduce gang violence by transforming entire neighborhoods into a learning environment.
Muita gente sai da rua para ficar aqui fazendo aula de circo, de skate, de tênis. E a gente aprende brincando.
With financial crises a recurrent fact of life in much of the region, government funding for social programs is perpetually in jeopardy. So UNICEF is working with legislators and other decision makers to make budgets more child-friendly. After its budget crisis in 1999, Ecuador gave UNICEF an unprecedented opportunity. UNICEF took a structural approach, took a look at the entire budget, and thanks in large part to UNICEF advocacy and analysis, instead of a reduction in social spending, a 58% increase was achieved. Hurricanes sweeping through the Caribbean cause each year billions of dollars worth of damage. In emergency situations, UNICEF rushes relief supplies to the area and remains on the scene to help communities rebuild. In Latin America and the Caribbean, UNICEF is working as part of the United Nations in 36 countries, focusing on these and other priorities. To do its work, the organization mobilizes voluntary contributions from governments, the private sector, and ordinary citizens. The support of individuals and businesses through donations, corporate partnerships, and the sale of cards and products is increasingly important. Working with various partners in the region, UNICEF has achieved some remarkable successes. With PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization, governments, and Rotary International, UNICEF has helped make the region polio-free since 1994. Latin America has been a model to the world with regards to the reduction of iodine deficiency. A perfect example, Panama was declared iodine deficiency-free in 2002. Through a partnership with Kiwanis International, 95% of Panamanians now have access to iodized salt. Latin America and the Caribbean ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child more rapidly than other regions during the early 90s. Over the last 15 years, UNICEF has demonstrated leadership and commitment, supporting the countries of the region in the legal reform process. As a result, the human rights of children are placed in the constitutions, civil codes, and family laws in almost all of them. UNICEF has many allies in the business community to promote children's rights and raise funds for its programs. In Brazil, for example, a long-term alliance with Banco Itaú has touched the lives of millions of children and raised over $12 million through the sale of UNICEF private investment plans. And UNICEF knows well that the best partners of all in the fight for children's rights are children themselves.
Como niños que somos, nos sentimos muy orgullosos de defender nuestros derechos.
Y las niñas y niños tenemos la libertad de expresarlos.
Las niñas y los niños tenemos derecho a opinar.
UNICEF brings together the powerful and the powerless to make a world that works for children. Together with the Inter-American Development Bank and the Organization of American States, UNICEF is working toward universal and free birth registration by 2010 to bring millions of children out of the shadows.
We have to be thinking about guaranteeing the children's basic rights of citizenship: the right to study, the right to live in a house, the right to eat calories and proteins, but above all, the right to play.
We're partners with UNICEF because we needed to unite with those who understand children most. And no one understands children in the world better than UNICEF.
Supporting UNICEF's work in the region can make the difference between empty classrooms and children going to school, between silence and children's voices being heard.
Acá hay 6 de niños.